She poured 20 gallons of industrial-grade herbicide into a federally protected watershed just to improve her sunset view. And the invoice she just received from the Environmental Protection Agency is literally larger than her entire mortgage. But the financial ruin isn't even the worst part of this story. The worst part is what the judge whispered to her right before he revoked her bail, a sentence that terrified the entire courtroom and is the exact reason I'm recording this right now. If you think you own your property, you need to listen to this, because until you check the specific clause I found in my deed, you might be just as vulnerable as I was. Let's backtrack to where the nightmare began. I bought a 4-acre plot of land that sits at the bottom of a valley. It's dense, green, and private, affectionately named the Hollow. The key feature is a massive, natural bamboo forest and a creek that acts as a natural drainage system for the luxury subdivision sitting on the ridge above me. I don't live in that subdivision. I'm not part of their homeowners association. I just own the land that catches their rainwater. And that is where the problem starts. But here's the thing most people don't realize about property law. Gravity doesn't care about your property line, and neither did the woman living directly above me. Let's call her Brenda. Brenda lives in a McMansion on the ridge, and her backyard overlooks my bamboo forest. When I moved in, everything was peaceful for exactly 3 days. On the 4th day, I found a typed letter taped to my front gate. No envelope, just heavy cardstock. It read, "Dear neighbor, the weeds in your lower lot are obstructing the lake view from the ridge estates. Please have them removed by Saturday." She called a 30-foot-tall, 100-year-old bamboo forest weeds. I crumpled the note and threw it in the recycling. That was my first mistake. I didn't realize that by ignoring her, I wasn't just annoying a neighbor. I was challenging a woman who had never been told no in her entire adult life. 2 days later, I'm in my driveway and a landscaping truck pulls up. Not my landscapers. They tell me they're here to clear the brush, authorized by the HOA president. I tell them to turn around or I'm calling the sheriff. The driver looks confused, shows me a work order signed by Brenda and says, "Lady said this was community property." I sent them away. But this is where it gets interesting. Most people would stop there. Brenda didn't. She came down to my property personally an hour later. She didn't knock. She just walked right past my no trespassing sign and started screaming at my contractor who was fixing my porch. She demanded to speak to the tenant. When I walked out and told her I'm the owner, she actually laughed. She told me that the Ridge Estates has an easement over my valley for aesthetic preservation. I told her to get off my land. She looked me dead in the eye and said, "You're going to regret making an enemy of me. I have lawyers on retainer who cost more than your house." Update 1. The War of Attrition. For 3 weeks, nothing happened. Silence. I thought maybe I'd won, but that's the trap. Silence isn't peace, it's preparation. I woke up one morning to the sound of chainsaws. I ran out in my boxers and boots. 3 guys were on the far side of the creek, my property, cutting down the black bamboo. This isn't garden variety bamboo, this is structural vegetation that holds the cliffside together. If you cut it, the dirt gets loose. I screamed at them, and they scattered. They left their tools behind. I called the police, but since the perps were gone, they just filed a report for vandalism. But here is the twist that Brenda didn't calculate. I installed trail cameras the day after the first confrontation. I didn't just catch the guys cutting the bamboo, I caught Brenda standing on her balcony, pointing and directing them via cell phone. I had the footage. I went to a lawyer, let's call him Saul. Saul looked at the footage, looked at my deed, and got a very scary grin on his face. He told me, "Don't sue her yet, let her dig the hole deeper." I didn't know what he meant, but I trusted him. And that brings us to the chemical warfare. Update 2. The yellowing. About a week after the chainsaw incident, I noticed something wrong with the creek. The water looked oily. The smell was acrid, like burning rubber and bleach. The remaining bamboo, the stuff the chainsaws missed, started turning a sickly yellow, not just wilting but dying overnight. My dog, A golden retriever named Buster ran towards the creek, and I had to tackle him to stop him from drinking it. That tackle saved his life, and probably my case. I walked up the slope to the property line. Brenda has a drainage pipe that comes from her pool deck and points directly down into my valley. There was a steady drip of a blue-green liquid coming out of it. It wasn't pool water. I took a sample in a mason jar. I took soil samples from the roots of the dead bamboo. I sent them to a private lab. The results came back 3 days later, and the lab technician actually called me personally. He asked, "Sir, do you live near a toxic waste dump?" The levels of glyphosate and triclopyr were off the charts, literally 500 times the legal limit for residential use. But here is where the story goes from a civil dispute to a federal crime. I wasn't just dealing with a crazy neighbor killing my plants. My deed, the document I mentioned at the start, designates my creek as a tributary to a major river. That means my backyard is technically a wetland of special state concern. By poisoning my water, Brenda wasn't just damaging my property. She was attacking a federally protected waterway. Saul, my lawyer, told me to sit tight. "Let the EPA handle the heavy lifting," he said. Update 3. The landslide. While we were building the case, physics decided to intervene. Remember I said the bamboo holds the cliff together? Well, the roots were dead. We had a massive rainstorm 3 nights ago. I was watching TV when I heard a sound like a freight train, a low rumble that shook the floorboards. I looked out the back window and saw the hillside moving. A massive chunk of the slope, about 40 feet wide, slid down into the creek. It took out my tool shed, but more importantly, it undercut the ridge above. I looked up. Brenda's massive, expensive infinity pool deck was now hanging off the edge of the cliff like a diving board over nothing. The earth beneath it was gone. The erosion she caused by killing the vegetation had literally undermined her own foundation. I called the fire department immediately because I was worried her house would collapse on top of mine. They evacuated her. I stood in the rain and watched Brenda being escorted out of her house in her silk robe, screaming that I had sabotaged her land. Update 4. The investigation. The fire marshal condemned her backyard. It's uninhabitable. But the real kicker was the next morning. The Department of Environmental Protection, DEP, showed up. Not one guy with a clipboard, but a team of 6 agents and windbreakers. I handed them the lab results, the video of her directing the chainsaws, and the video of the drainage pipe dripping the chemicals. You could physically see the moment the lead agent went from annoyed bureaucrat to man on a manhunt. He looked at the erosion, looked at the dead zone where the chemicals hit, and said, "This is an environmental crime scene." They went up to the ridge. Brenda was staying at a neighbor's house, but she came out to meet them, thinking she could bully them like she bullies the mailman. I wasn't there, but my neighbor Jay, who lives 2 doors down and hates Brenda, texted me the play-by-play. Apparently, Brenda tried to tell the federal agents that the bamboo was an invasive species, and she was doing a public service. The agent asked if she had a permit to discharge Class A herbicides into a waterway. She said, "It's my backyard, I don't need a permit." That was the confession. But wait, it gets worse for her. Saul found out that Brenda's husband is a developer. He knows property law. There is no way he didn't know that slope was protected. I suspect he was trying to clear the view to increase the appraisal value before selling the house, but Brenda got impatient and went nuclear. Now they are turning on each other. I received a cease and desist letter from Brenda's lawyer claiming I altered the topography of the hill to cause the slide. It's desperate. It's a lie, and it's about to be disproven by satellites. Update 5. The satellite evidence. My lawyer pulled historical satellite imagery. It proves the bamboo has been there for 40 years. It proves the slope was stable until the exact week the chemical burning started. We submitted this to the judge for the emergency injunction. The judge froze Brenda's assets. Why? Because the estimated cost to remediate the soil and stabilize the cliff is $1.2 million. Her insurance company sent an adjuster out yesterday. The adjuster took one look at the DEP report, laughed, and told me, "We don't cover intentional criminal acts. She's on her own." Update 6. The Karen meltdown. Since she was evicted from her own home due to structural instability, Brenda has been staying at a hotel. But she came back yesterday to grab clothes. She saw me inspecting the damage with a restoration crew. She lost her mind. She charged down the remaining stable part of the hill, trespassing again, screaming that I ruined her life. She tried to grab my phone while I was recording. This is where she messed up big time. She slipped on the mud, the very mud she created by killing the roots, and slid 20 feet down into the toxic creek water. She wasn't hurt, but she was covered in the chemical sludge she poured. She started screaming that the water was burning her skin. I had to call 911 again. The paramedics had to treat her for chemical burns. The irony was so thick, you could cut it with a knife. The police officer on scene finally issued a criminal citation for trespassing and assault for trying to grab the phone. But the real hammer dropped this morning. Update 7, the federal charges. I just got off the phone with the prosecutor. They aren't just fining her. Because the creek feeds into a water supply for a town 10 miles downstream, they are charging her with violating the Clean Water Act. That's a felony. We are talking potential prison time. The fines are cumulative, $50,000 per day that the violation continues. Since the chemicals are still in the soil leaching out, the ticker is running. She is racking up $350,000 a week in fines. Update 8, the husband's betrayal. Remember the husband? He came to my door last night. He looked like he hadn't slept in a week. He asked if we could settle this man to man. He offered me $50,000 to drop the lawsuit. I told him, "Sir, the federal government is suing you, not me. I'm just the witness." He broke down. He told me Brenda emptied their joint savings account to pay a retainer for a criminal defense firm that specializes in white-collar crime. He's filing for divorce. He wants to cut his losses before the EPA takes everything. But here is the detail that will keep you up at night. I asked him why she did it. Why go this far? He said, she promised her yoga group she'd host a sunset retreat on the ridge next month, and she didn't want the bamboo blocking the energy flow. She destroyed $1 million worth of real estate and poisoned an ecosystem for a yoga retreat. Update 9, the discovery. My lawyer was digging through the HOA bylaws of the Ridge Estates to see if we could sue the HOA as well. He found something incredible. The Ridge Estates Charter specifically forbids the removal of any vegetation on the downslope for erosion control. Brenda signed this document when she bought the house. She knowingly violated her own HOA covenant. This means the HOA insurance won't cover her either. She has zero cover. Every layer of protection she thought she had, homeowner's insurance, HOA liability, her husband's money, is gone. Update 10, the courtroom scene. We had a preliminary hearing regarding the restraining order today. Brenda showed up wearing a neck brace, totally fake, claiming I pushed her into the creek. Her lawyer looked embarrassed. The judge asked to see my video. I played the clip of her charging at me and slipping on her own mud. The courtroom was silent. The judge looked at Brenda and said, "Mrs. Peterson, you are testing the patience of this court in a way I have rarely seen. If you violate the perimeter of the plaintiff's property by 1 inch, I will revoke your bail." Bail? Yes. She was arrested quietly 2 days ago for the Clean Water Act violation and posted bond. I didn't even know. Update 11, the soil remediation. The EPA has taken over my backyard. It looks like a sci-fi movie. Men in hazmat suits are excavating the contaminated soil. They are billing Brenda for the equipment, the manpower, and the disposal. They have to truck the dirt to a special facility 3 states away. The bill for this week alone is $42,000. Brenda's Mercedes was repossessed from the hotel parking lot yesterday. The husband is liquidating assets. I watched a tow truck take his boat. It's a total collapse. Update 12, the wedding plot twist. You won't believe this. I found an Instagram page for a Zen Garden wedding venue launching next fall. It was Brenda's page. She wasn't just clearing the view for yoga. She was planning to build a cantilevered wedding deck extending over my property. She had already taken deposits from 3 brides. Those brides are now commenting on her page asking why the venue is condemned. Fraud. Wire fraud. Add that to the list of charges. Update 13. The Flying Monkeys. Brenda's friends are now trying to harass me. I get pizzas delivered that I didn't order. I get negative reviews on my business page claiming I hate nature. It's a coordinated attack. I hired a digital forensics guy. He traced the IP addresses. They are all coming from the unauthorized Wi-Fi at the hotel where Brenda is staying. She's making fake accounts to tank my reputation. We added cyberstalking to the lawsuit. At this point, my lawyer is just laughing every time he picks up the phone. It's like she's trying to go to jail, he said. Update 14. The Wildlife. It's sad, but we found dead salamanders and fish in the creek. We photographed every single one. In my state, there is a specific restitution value for wildlife killed by pollution. Each dead fish is a separate fine. We found 400 dead minnows. That's another $10,000. But the big one is the great blue heron that nests here. We haven't seen it in 2 weeks. If she killed a federally protected migratory bird, the Fish and Wildlife Service gets involved. That's a whole new agency with a whole new set of handcuffs. Update 15. The Attempted Bribe. Brenda's husband came back. He offered me the deed to a rental property they own in the city if I sign a non-disclosure agreement. He wants me to stop posting updates. He wants the videos scrubbed from the internet. I told him, I can't delete the EPA's evidence. He got angry. He threatened to countersue me for loss of enjoyment of life. I reminded him that his wife literally destroyed the foundation of his house. He drove off, but he hit my mailbox on the way out. I have that on camera, too. Update 16. The Cliff Collapse, Part 2. It happened again. Since they haven't finished stabilizing the hill, another chunk gave way last night. Brenda's swimming pool actually cracked. Water poured out of the crack, washed down the hill, and flooded my basement. Now I have water damage inside my house. But here is the silver lining. The chlorinated pool water reacted with the chemicals she poured in the soil, creating a toxic vapor cloud. The fire department had to evacuate the entire street. Her street, not mine. Now all her rich neighbors hate her too. She has successfully alienated everyone within a 5-mile radius. Update 17. The Secret Recording. I was at the grocery store and I ran into Brenda. She didn't see me at first. She was on the phone, crying, screaming at someone named Rick. I got closer and hit record on my voice memo app. She said, I didn't know the poison was that strong, Rick. The guy at the hardware store said it would just kill the roots. You have to fix this. She admitted she bought the poison. She admitted intent. I sent the audio file to Saul immediately. He sent back a GIF of a gavel dropping. Update 18. The Arrest. This is the big one. This morning I saw lights flashing up on the ridge. I used my drone, legal in my area, to get a look. The U.S. Marshals were there. Not local cops. Marshals. They brought Brenda out in handcuffs. She wasn't fighting this time. She looked broken. They put her in the back of an SUV. I found out later that the Rick on the phone was a guy who sells illegal agricultural chemicals under the table. She implicated him, and he rolled on her to save himself. He testified that she specifically asked for something that will kill a forest in a week. Update 19. The Plea Deal. Her lawyers are begging for a deal. They want to cap the prison time at 18 months in exchange for full restitution. My lawyer says the government is considering it, but only if she liquidates all her real estate holdings to pay for the cleanup. That means she loses the McMansion, the rental property, the boat, everything. She will come out of prison homeless and bankrupt. Update 20. The Aftermath. The noise has stopped. The hill is covered in tarps. The remediation crew is working quietly. I walked down to the creek today. The water is running clear again thanks to the filtration pumps the EPA installed. And you know what I saw? A single bamboo shoot poking up through the mud. Nature is resilient. Brenda isn't. The bamboo will grow back. Her credit score never will. Update 21. The Loop Closed. Remember at the beginning I told you about the specific clause in my deed that changed everything? It wasn't just the wetland designation. I found a document from 1920 attached to the title Abstract. It grants my property a negative easement for support against the ridge. In plain English, it means that the land above me owes my land structural support. By destabilizing the hill, she didn't just trespass. She violated a property right that has existed for 100 years. This allowed the judge to grant me a lien on her house before the bank could foreclose. That means when the house is sold for scrap, I get paid first. I get paid before her mortgage lender. I get paid before the IRS. Update 22. The moral. People ask me if I feel bad for her. She lost her home, her husband, her freedom, and her reputation. I look at the dead fish in the jar on my desk. I look at the scar on the hillside. No, I don't feel bad. Entitlement is a disease, and reality is the cure. She thought the rules didn't apply to her because she lived on the high ground. She forgot that the higher you are, the harder you fall when the ground gives way beneath you. Update 23. The final twist. I just got a letter from the prison. It's from Brenda. I thought it would be a threat. It's not. She wants to know if I'll adopt her cat, Princess. She says no one else will take it, and she noticed I have a nice yard. The audacity of this woman is truly a renewable resource. I'm keeping the letter, framing it, and hanging it in the new gazebo I'm building, right where her pool deck used to hang over. I haven't decided about the cat yet, but I did plant a new row of black bamboo today. It grows 3 feet a week. By the time she gets out on parole, she won't be able to see a single thing from that ridge. And that is the best justice I can imagine.